Hello, this presentation aims to outline our research thesis, which looks at how fanfiction and on digital platforms are shaping and influencing the creative and cultural industries. Our thesis focuses on understanding the place and influence of digital platforms, particularly how fanfiction plays a significant role within the creative and cultural industries. Our motivations are informed by extensive experience in the field as both fanfiction authors and readers. Furthermore, we aim to contribute to the already existing research. After establishing the thesis focus, we strategically aligned the division of tasks with each member's expertise to enhance the quality of the research. For example, I, Fandio, mastered Jabovi better, so I took charge of presenting the quantitative results, while Madina had more social skills to ask for and conduct interviews. The introduction and abstract were developed together. Then, we identified keywords that align with the overall vision of the thesis and built the literature review after reading each 11 articles. I handled the methodology and reviewed it with Madina. Regarding the interviews, there were splits. Madina conducted 4 interviews with fanfiction authors, while I conducted one, and Madina also performed 2 interviews with non-fanfiction authors. And as for the publishing houses interviews, I could not attend the first, but I assisted with the second. We constructed the survey for the quantitative parts together and disseminated it widely. I oversaw the quantitative part, while Madina managed the qualitative and passive group observations. Each of us reviewed the other's parts to ensure consistency. And for the discussion, we collaborated to ensure coherence, making recommendations together. Madina crafted the conclusion, and I oversaw its development. We used several AI tools to help us throughout the process of writing our thesis. First, we used ChatGPT to summarize academic articles after we read them. It also helped us explore what we could analyze for the quantitative parts based on our literature review. It helped interpreting the results using Jabovi as well. For the qualitative research, ChatGPT helped us synthesize the key points from the interviews, which made it easier to start the coding process. We also used it during the writing process to ask specific questions, like whether certain ideas were relevant or if they could bring real added value to our work. For example, when we developed hypotheses related to our topic. Then, we used Notebook LM to help structure our literature review and qualitative analysis, thanks to its suggestion and especially its Q&A functionality. It helped us avoid repeating ideas and ensured better consistency. Finally, we used DeepL to translate some section and Grammarly to check grammar and improve the accuracy of our translation throughout the thesis, since we redacted some in French, the introduction, literature review, methodology, and all the interviews. For the methodology, to find all our sources, we mainly use the keyword fanfiction. We search in databases like EBSCO, Cairn, university websites such as La Sorbonne, and more generally, we explored Google Scholar to find additional articles. One of the main difficulties was finding articles that were actually useful for our thesis because fanfiction is not a common research topic. And since we didn't find any articles directly connecting fanfiction to management, we focused on articles related to the book industry in general, and this allowed us to collect more valuable insights.
As for the data analysis part, we decided to mix our methodologies because our research question was very global. We used a quantitative approach through a survey to learn more about fanfiction readers' conceptions, habits, and behaviors. We also included a non-fanfiction readers to the survey to understand their point of view about it. We analyzed the data first on Excel, then on Gemovie to compare all the hypotheses we found in the literature review. At the same time, we used qualitative research by interviewing different profile groups. The first one consisted of fanfiction writers with diverse profiles and backgrounds. They were a key part of our thesis, as some of them wanted to adapt their fanfiction into original publishable stories. The second group was non-fanfiction writers. We wanted to understand their point of view about fanfiction writing, the differences they might feel about it, and how they try to build a name for themselves. Like Wattpad, since original fiction is less known than fanfiction. The third group was publishing houses. We interviewed two different publishing houses, one that didn't know anything about the fanfiction process, and one that had already adapted a fanfiction into a fully published original story. When we completed all the interviews, we used coding methods to extract the main ideas that emerged and to build arguments that we could compare with the literature review hypotheses and articles. To complete our analysis, we conducted passive group observations on social networks and social media like Reddit, Wattpad, and X. This immersion allowed us to follow real-time conversations, community trends, and live directions. About the challenges we encountered on our path, we starting with the search for academic articles, as we said before, finding articles about fanfiction in the field of management was difficult, so we extended our research, our search to the book industry as a whole. Also about digital platforms like Wattpad and IO3. Another challenge was finding people to answer our survey. We shared it on all over social media, but we didn't get that many responses as we expected. So we used Prolific, a platform where we pay people from around the world to complete surveys. It was a bit expensive, but it helped us get about 15 more responses, but it was essential to collect as much data as possible. So it was worth it. As for the interviews, we also struggled to get answers from some authors and publishing houses. We contacted authors as early as possible, but some kept postponing the interviews and some never replied. As for the publishing houses, only two accepted to answer to us. The others didn't even take the time to answer calls and reply to our emails and direct messages on Instagram. Started writing the thesis in our first language, which is French. At first, we thought that maybe our thesis could be published later, and since it's easier to talk about fanfiction in English, we wanted to write it in English. But because of our interviews, they are French, and most of our drafts were in French, we realized that writing a full paper in proper English was extremely difficult since it's our second language. Looking back, one of our biggest challenge was time management, balancing the thesis, our internship reports, and especially our personal lives like health was not always easy. Finally, to conclude, fanfiction has clearly shaken up the way we create, we read, and publish stories. It calls into question the traditional publishing, but also literature as a whole, as it blurs the lines between authors, readers, and publishers, and even as institutional educations. But even with everything we know today, all the case studies and the articles, Also, we often focus on the psychology of the writers, but we still couldn't get to know much about the psychology of the readers, what they're really looking for, why they're so drawn to fan fictions, and so on. We also tend to forget that fanfiction platforms aren't perfect. Um, there's real pressure, competition driven by algorithms of these digital spaces, mental overload, demanding readers, ethical and cultural concerns, and even things like the rise of AI written stories. This deserves more attention, a thorough study. Fanfiction isn't just a safe utopian bubble. So future researchers should really focus on that and take the time to dig deeper. We need long-term studies that follow these communities as they grow and evolve and combine different methods like interviews, ethnography, and platform analysis. Honestly, this topic is a boundless subject. There are still so many things to test and explore, and that's precisely what makes it even more interesting and exciting.